our project today is to install a Williams Peep sight, the model 5D-SH, onto this Sheridan receiver. So our victim today is this Sheridan. This is probably a 1962-1963 model. It has a hold down safety, and it doesn't have any sight at all. I don't know what happened to it. It didn't have a sight when I acquired it, and I've been meaning to put the Peep sight on here. And so what we're going to do is drill the holes and tap them here and locate them properly. One thing is that when you're cycling the bolt here, there's that little spring in the bolt, and you want to make sure that your holes are located such that they don't interfere with that spring. And the spring is somewhere in this vicinity here, and so I put a mark on here just to remind me not to get too far forward. And in fact, I think a good location for these is somewhere where the screws are back in this area, and the sight's maybe 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch from the back of the receiver. Alright, what we're going to need in order to do this is a number 31 drill, and so I've got that right here. And we also need a 648 tap, and here's a 648 tap right here. Now Williams sells both the drill and the tap if you want to get it directly from them. So here's the sight, and we're going to install it somewhere in that location there. It's not really intended to sit against the tube. It's intended to sit against a flat here, and so we have to keep that in mind. If you're going to do this at home, I don't recommend this. I mean, I suppose if you're really good with this, you could do it, but I wouldn't do it. At the very least, use a drill press and have this held securely in some sort of a vise so it, stays put, and try and make sure that it's perpendicular to the drill so you don't drill in at some angle there. Okay, the top part of the sight is held in with this screw and a dovetail, so you loosen that screw and the top part comes right off. You can set that aside, and that exposes 2 holes here, and these are the 2 that we're going to use to hold the sight onto the gun. So what we're looking at is something like that, and we want to locate the screws. Come on now, there's a flat on here on the side of the receiver, and that's what we're not going to use the tube because that would kind of tilt it, so we're going to use the flat, and we're going to put the holes in. The rear hole at least 1/8 of an inch, I'd say, maybe even 1/4 of an inch, and then this hole here will be well back from where that spring is in the bolt. So that's how we're going to mount it. Now, how far apart do we space the holes? Let's take a look at that. The holes from the outside edge of each hole to the outside edge of the other one is about 100. We're going to call it 140 thousandths, or rather 540 thousandths. So we got 540 thousandths of an inch, and I know you're looking at this upside down, but can't help that at this point. And each hole is about 143 thousandths. And the way you determine the distance, so the hole is 143 thousandths of an inch. The way you determine the spacing is you look at this hole and this hole, and we want to drill right in the center. And we know the distance from the outside to the outside is 540 thousandths. And each hole is 143. Well, if you take half of that hole out, half of that hole out, you can just subtract that 143 from the 540. You get 7, 4, 3, 9. Let's see, 7, that'd be 3, 4, 13, minus 4, so yeah, and that becomes 4, minus 1 is. So we're looking at a hole here for this one, and we're going to drill that, and we're going to drill the other one 397 thousandths away from it. So center of that and center of that, and we're going to call that 400 thousandths. Well, in preparation for the milling, one thing I often do is just kind of draw out where things go. And if we get onto the flat here, I put a piece of tape, and if we get on here and, you know, approximately locate it, so the rear hole is somewhere 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in front of the receiver, and we can mark one of the holes, which is what we've got here, and so we can set it up and drill and tap that hole, move back 400 thousandths and drill and tap that hole, and we'll have our receiver set up for the site. Now, one thing, when you're drilling into a tube like this, you're liable to raise burrs on the inside, or, you know, the chips and swarf and whatnot from the drilling and tapping. You don't want them to go down inside of the tube here. And so I found actually a pencil from Lowe's Building Supply, and this is says Dixon on it. I don't know what that is, but it actually fits very tightly into the tube. So we're going to use this to catch any chips or swarf. We're going to drill right into it, and that way we'll hopefully not raise burrs in this, or very small burrs if we do, and keep the inside of the receiver clean. Alright, we're at the milling machine. We had some audio problems with the machine and the harmonics, so we're doing this voiceover. But it's in the vise, got our leather to protect the receiver, it's held securely, got our drill set up, got our tape with our initial point identified, we've got our pencil in there to protect from burrs, and we did a visual alignment using the top of the receiver so that we could drill straight down into the receiver. We don't want to drill at an angle. So now we just have to find our first point, and we're going to do that visually as well. We could indicate off at the top of the receiver and the back of the receiver, but you know, this is actually going to work just fine. And I know you're saying, why don't you drill the doggone thing? So here we go, getting ready to drill, and check to make sure that our drill is roughly where the first dot was there that we put onto the green tape. And now here we go. You can't hear it, but we're step drilling. Go down a little bit, come back out, down a little bit, come back out, until we start seeing the wood chips come out from the pencil, and then we know we've gotten through. Okay, the next part of this is to move it 400 thousandths to drill the other hole. And so we have a dial on this machine. We've taken the backlash out, and this is every revolution of this dial is 200 thousandths. So we go around twice, and we are pretty precisely aligned for that second hole. Alright, so here we are drilling that second hole after we've moved the receiver by the 400 thousandths of an inch, and we'll take that through. I actually blow on it so I can see what chips are coming out of the hole, and when we hit the pencil, the wood, again, I'll know that we're through, and don't go any deeper. That's plenty. Okay, so we've got our tap here and our tapping wrench. We're just going to take it down here, put a little pressure on it, and we want it to go straight into the hole, and so this directs it essentially in a, you can't get it off, and it puts a little pressure downward on it. So alright, well, we've done as much damage to this receiver as I think we can. Let's see if the screw fits. And it does. Okay, we're good there. So we're going to pull the pencil out. And you can see we drilled and tapped the pencil for those threads. So that looks pretty good. If there's a burr on the inside, you can use a dental burr, you know, put it right through the hole if you got one small enough, and just kind of clean it up. I don't have any, so I do have a set of these Swiss pattern files. This is kind of a half round, and if I need to, I can go in there and kind of clean those up. But you know, just visually they look pretty good. I don't see any burr on them at all. So let's see if our sight fits here. How does this thing go? It goes like that. Here we go. And there's a short one and a long one. I think the short one goes in the middle. Okay, and then the long one, I believe, for the back here. And neither one of them is sticking into the receiver, so I think we're good. Okay, next we put the upper unit in, and we've got to catch this dovetail on this side, just right there. Let's see if I can get it. Alright, we're in. And there's our peep sight. Now I'm going to take this off and finish rebuilding this gun. But okay, that's how you do it. If you're doing it at home, I really like the tape method, where you can set a piece of tape on there and locate the two holes. You know, if you don't have a milling machine or something, I think the main thing is to get it in somehow to hold it, you know, tightly, securely, and to do it on a drill press rather than by hand. And you should be okay. Don't forget to use something so that you don't get burrs on the inside, and if you do get burrs, you can always use a file gently